Hello, guitar players. What I just played for you was a chord progression in a minor key. And we have talked about major keys. We've talked about major chords. We've even mentioned minor chords, but we haven't really talked about minor keys. So I want to just kind of give you a heads up as to how those work and why. I'm not going to delve into all the nuances of it, but there are major and minor keys, just like there are major and minor chords. The major key is built upon a major scale. And we talked about that earlier. It was saying that it was built on a pattern of 2.5, 3.5. That would be 2 whole steps and a half step, 3 whole steps and a half step. Remembering that a whole step equals 2 frets on the guitar, and a half step therefore equals 1 fret. So if you were in A, in the key of A major, your first note would be A. Your second note would be B, up 2 frets. Then you go up 2 frets more, and it has to be called C something. Well, your C, if you recall, at the bottom of your C chord is here, and this is a half step up, therefore it is C sharp. It is not D flat, although in another situation it could be, but it's not this time anyway, because it has to be alphabetical, so it has to be A, B, C something, C sharp. Now we've gone 2 whole steps, now we go a half step, 1 fret, and that takes us to the tuning fret. Well, we can transfer that tuning fret down to the open string. Our scale now goes A, B, C sharp, D. Now we need 3 whole steps. D to E, E to what is known as F sharp because we've skipped over the F natural. Then we've got to go a whole step from the 4th fret. Well, that's going to be bum bum, and that is a half step above the tuning fret. Well, this tuning fret is a G, so this has to be a G sharp. Alphabetical. We just had an F sharp, now we've got a G sharp. But we can transfer that down to the 3rd string if we say, okay, it's a half step above the tuning fret, 1 fret, that means it's going to be 1 fret above the open string too. Oh, and it is, son of a gun. And then back to the A at the half step. So it's whole, whole, half, whole, half, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. With that combination of notes, we get the chords of A major, D, E being your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord. We did a whole lesson on 1, 4, and 5. You might want to go back and review that. Okay, so here's the thing though, that string of notes in the major scale gets us the notes that are in the chords of that major key. The 1, 4, and 5, all major. If we go into the parallel universe of A minor, and I'm calling it that because it is actually called a parallel key, because they're both going to begin on A. But this time we're going to take the 3rd step and the 6th step, and we're going to lower them a half step. We're not going to go with a whole step. We're going to go a half step at that point on the 3rd and the 6th. All right, so we still go A, B. Then instead of going to the C sharp, we go to the C. Then we still go to the D, still go to the E, but instead of going that whole step up to the F sharp, that's the 6th step, we go to an F natural. We still go to that G sharp on the 1st fret of the 3rd string. And now our scale sounds like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or tonic, or 1, or root, or whatever you want to call it. Key name. The idea here is that now we have an entirely different set of notes. And that gets us in a minor key. That minor scale in a minor key gets us a minor 1 chord, so that now we don't have an A, we have an A minor. The 4 chord then also becomes minor, and that would be not a D, but a D minor. You see, the names don't change, but the type of chords do. But because that note is in there, we end up with a major 5 chord. Notice, the 5 chord in minor key is major. The 5 chord in a major key is major. That's part of the parallelness of it all. Parallelness, that's a word I made up. You can use it free of charge. So here we are with this really nice chord progression, all built on the premise of this string of notes. Okay? So the idea here is that this works in every key every time. If we were in the key of E, you would be E, A, B7. Remember we talked about substituting the 7th chord for the regular chord if the regular chord was a bar chord and you didn't want to play that. If you know a B bar chord, go ahead and play it. But if you don't, or if you just want to keep everything down here on the lower end of the neck, you can always use that B7 to substitute. Well, in the parallel universe of E minor, that B7 is going to come into play again. So your 1 chord is E minor, your 4 chord is A minor, and your 5 chord is still the B7. Hear it? Now that's how the whole thing works. If you wanted to, though, you could borrow a lesson from something we talked about earlier, and that is the movable chord. Well, if we're going to go from an A minor to a D minor, if you recall, you can take this D chord, this D major chord, push it up 3 frets, and end up with a D minor 7. Well, you can, if you want to, substitute this D minor 7 for a D minor. It's still D minor something. Okay, but you've added the 7th. Well, that's nice and colorful. It's a different sound to the D minor chord, different dynamic to your chord progression. So now you would go A minor, D minor 7. Hear how that jumps up, and then back down to the E or the E7. And it just gives, again, it gives you some place else to move to, gives you a different feel to the entire chord progression. So I'm going to leave it right there. This is a little bit of a short lesson, but it's enough. And so what I'm going to say is experiment with it, okay? Play around with it, have fun with it, improvise with it. Just sit and play with these chords and mix and match them up and see what happens, okay? Now, what I always say, I'm going to say it again, keep playing and have fun with it. Bye.